everyone, and welcome back to, I guess, Marvel Monday. We had some extra time here. We just streamed a game of Crisis Protocol. We thought we'd hang out and chat. If you have any questions, start putting those in the chat.
Questions.
We'll talk about them. We're open. Anything related to tabletop, we're happy to talk about.
It's an open book. This business is an open book.
That's right. Ducati, I think, asked the question here. Hold on, let me go back. It just bumped it down. Ron Fraser saying, Champions is amazing. I agree. It's a great game. And then, where is it at? Ducati, yes. Are there tourneys for LCGs? If so, how would they work? So there are tournaments for competitive LCGs. There aren't currently tournaments for cooperative LCGs that we've seen. But what we have seen with Arkham, at least, is, I forget what they're called. It's not Arkham Nights. That's the event they host at their facility. But there's every October, usually, there's a kit stores can buy to host an event.
I know what you're talking about.
And a lot of time, it'll come with a scenario where a bunch of players can all play at once. So this last one, I think, was up to 16 people can play at once, which is a good reason for people to get together and play. And it's just this crazy big challenge, and it's this group scenario setting. And it's usually a pretty successful.
Invocation, that's right. Ryan's got us on that one.
So there's that, and then I don't think tournaments is really super feasible. It's cooperative, so that's
probably not. I mean, you could probably develop a system for like how many turns did it take us to win. I think that would be easy enough to do if you're looking to have a competitive metric of some kind, or like take that minus your ending health or something. I think probably the easiest thing to do is put it on a clock, not like a chess clock, but how many turns did we go around the table before this villain was defeated?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be perfect because every encounter is going to be different, unique. Different cards will come
every
up.
Set
so
of
it's
heroes,
a little different.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
With Lord of the Rings, there was a scoring system.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the problem is that, like, if you're heavy on, what was the spirit? Was it spirit?
Yeah, the questy one.
Yeah. If you're heavy on spirit, you're going to control threat way more. If you're heavy on whatever the rad damage one is.
Tactics.
I'm glad you're here. just for that reason.
Well, thanks.
So if you're heavy on tactics, you
time.
can clear enemies out more. So it was kind of a system that tried to account for everything. But I think with a cooperative game, the interesting thing about that to me is, like, it kind of goes against the spirit of that game in the first place to me. Like,
yeah.
I kind of get, like, how's my team doing compared to your team? But some heroes, right, they want to take damage like She-Hulk to power up and do her thing. And so, like, no matter how you score it, it just kind of gets weird. And some are faster, right? Rather than playing aggression, maybe you can end the game faster. But it's the penalties, usually it's hit and miss.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
It's true. How much do we need to donate to what charity to get Zach and Steven to shave? That's Jared Cooper.
Where's that?
It's up a little bit.
To shave the beards or everything?
It wouldn't take much for me to shave.
It would take a lot for me. Have you ever seen my chin? It's not good.
No, you've never shaved your head either, have you?
Yeah.
Did you?
Right before high school. Right before I grew my hair out for the first time.
Nice.
Yep.
How was that? Is it like
cold.
A smooth, normal head, or is it flat? Is it weird?
Fine.
It's a fine head. Okay. Well, good to know. 20,000 to...
Wow.
Do you have any charities you like? I had a really cool thing. You guys actually really dig this. So I have my father-in-law, right? I always say it wrong because I always say stepfather, and that's wrong. My father-in-law...
yeah, last time, like, stepfather. I was like, I didn't know you had a stepdad.
Yeah, it gave us like $100. All the kids got $100. And it was like, donate this across whatever charities you want, which I thought was a really cool thing to do for Christmas. Instead of like giving us money, it was like,
that's cool.
Donate this money. I donated a couple of like environmental charities, and I have gotten nothing but garbage mail since that moment. It's unbelievable. Like it's unbelievable. It's like 4 or 5 envelopes a day from not just those charities, from you like get your name put on the, this is a person giving money list. So it's over.
Do you think your overall environmental impact by donating to the environment
probably actually is negative?
Is now negative?
Yeah,
that's terrible.
It drives me so insane that I don't even have the time to write everybody and tell them to stop. It drives me crazy. I think mailboxes should be private property of the owner. And if you are going to put anything into that mailbox as a non-owner of that mailbox, you have to get express permission, just like we kind of have to do to send an email. Like transactional emails, if it's a bill or something, that goes in just fine. But if you're trying to solicit or market, you have to have record of me saying I want that.
I would be okay if you just couldn't solicit via mail.
At all. I mean, it goes right into the trash or the recycling or whatever. It's crazy. So 20,000 to a charity of your choice, Jared Cooper, and we'll do it. You into that?
Sure.
Ryan Roper, cake or pie? For me, it's pie.
Well, is it ice cream cake?
You decide.
ice cream cake all day long.
Okay, that's a nice compromise. Joe Saldano, any chance at a DC Champions-like game coming? I don't know. Probably
Sure.
not. I mean, I don't imagine FFG would just
think-
spin up on a
But I
DC
think
license.
we've
would
seen
it?
like DC and Marvel like Hero Clicks, and we've seen DC and Marvel Dice Masters.
Someone's going to make it.
I'm pretty sure that because of Marvel right now, we've seen the new Marvel United coming from Simon. We've got the Dice Master still clicking and the Hero Click still clicking. So it seems like that with Marvel, it's not exclusive.
It's also got the power of Disney behind it. So they're
Marvel?
probably
Yeah, that
actively
helps.
looking to make deals all the time. I don't know what DC is set up like.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, DC, Night Models is doing the DC miniatures. So maybe not
So
a miniatures game, but
someone needs to do a non-competitive, not living card game, but like expandable card game, cooperative, that is not the same as Champions, but yeah,
Well,
the idea of a cooperative
I
game.
mean, I do think Batman, the interesting thing about Batman at least, is that you could make Batman the deck.
Yeah.
And then you're the villains.
Oh, that's true.
And so like
That's
you
interesting.
have the various heroes that you get to play against and like different stages of Batman.
Batman's kind of known as having the coolest villains, right?
Sure.
Which I think is 100%
I mean,
true.
as a single hero, when you start listing out
Penguin, Riddler, Joker, yeah.
Harley Quinn.
So good.
Uh,
That animated
Mr.
series.
Freeze. Riddler is another one. Scarecrow.
Yeah, all of them. Croc, did you say? Yeah.
Croc. Yeah.
I like Toast asking, do you guys think the board game market is flooded? It feels like there are too many board games right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
The estimate I hear every year at Gamma is like 3,000, 4,000, or 5,000 board games a year. So even just for easy math, if there were 3,650, that would be 300 divided by the year. It's 10 a day, right?
That's 10 a day.
So 10 board games every day of the year coming out. That's a lot. But at the same time, over the past year, year and a half, it's just one kind of gauge of the size of this thing. The board game subreddit went from 1 to 2 million subscribers
This year?
in the past year.
That's crazy.
So
Yeah, it's a good sign. And the problem is they're all, like, so many of them are good. So, like, you feel like you're missing out on these awesome experiences. There's small publishers putting out absolute fire right now. It's kind of like what happened. It feels a little bit like a lot of industries that have been made more and more accessible to, like, independent creators. So, like, Kickstarter has opened up a lot. It's very similar to me, kind of what happened when MySpace and music kind of became more commoditized, where all of a sudden now there's a million bands and you don't need a record label anymore, and you don't need to, like, go through the traditional channels, and that led to an explosion of music. And then it led to the idea that there's just so much noise out there. How do you find the good music anymore?
Totally.
I think board games are in a similar spot. This is where I think publishers can really stake out a position in a market like this. If they can consistently produce great things, just what record labels do for like vinyl now, at least on my side of the world. It's like, I know that a certain label is going to put out quality things. I don't even need to listen to the track to buy it. I feel like creators, publishers especially, if they can get that reputation, that's going to separate them a lot in a crowded market like this.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you've seen some brands doing that. Like Stone Meyer's a good example of this to me, which is you just expect a certain quality from him. Even Fantasy Flight, it's like there's a quality that comes to it.
The problem, though, and FFG kind of ran into this, is that if you try to do too much, inevitably you're going to confuse what it is that you're about.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that Stonemeyer's been pretty good about is smaller amounts of releases where you can kind of stay on top of what your brand is.
Yeah.
But there's also, I mean, Stonemeyer also has a following, that are like anti-Stonemeyer games, where it's like, we don't like these kinds of games, or we think this is overblown or overpriced, those kinds of things.
But
so that always happens.
I think we talk about it a lot on the podcast. So we do a weekly podcast on Fridays, and it is a real issue, I think, in the industry, which is both for players and the whole chain, right? Because the difference between music being uploaded to YouTube, which is just a bunch of music you may or may not find, is that games are physical products that get produced, right? And so like there's a cost to making those and distributing those, and basically because of what's happening, right? It's like back in the 2000s, it felt like you can kind of keep up.
Yeah.
Like even as someone not specifically following board games, I felt like I knew what was going on in board games all the time.
Yeah, it was nice.
But now the noise is such that I just kind of stop paying attention. And like a game has to really catch me for me to start paying attention. Ultimately, I think in the long run, that's going to like, you just see, it's like it's not stimulated by the government, but it's like the housing market where like, as long as demand for these things keeps going up and up and up, publishers can keep making more and more games that can be successful and they can sustain. But if we ever get to a point where we're not going from 1 to 2 million subscribers on the subreddit in a year, which to me just symbolizes there's a certain amount of growth happening in this industry. If we ever cross that threshold, right?
Yeah.
It's
You
kind of a
think
house of cards.
The bottom will fall out. A lot
Well,
of publishers go out of business.
I think it's just going to take, because of the physical nature of this stuff, right? It's like if you pay to have this thing printed and brought over and then it doesn't sell, and you have to store it and you have to insure it and you have to deal with it and you don't make your money back off of it, it's like it only takes one or two of those and then the cascade of cash flow stops, and then all of a sudden a company goes out of business. There'll probably be a lot of
consolidation.
Consolidation is the word for that. Because publishers that have previously made big titles that are still doing okay might get bought by a publisher that didn't take a big hit, and slowly they kind of get rolled up. But it's a kind of push and pull that's probably pretty healthy. There's a lot of content being made. I know a lot of people also are dealing with I have 50 games, 20 of which aren't even out of the plastic.
Yeah.
And like at that point, the next game that you add, I'm very selective, right? I maybe buy 2 or 3 board games a year, and then the rest of it is playing the 1 or 2 expandable games I happen to really be into.
But it's a cool idea that you can curate your own selection and have something to offer guests or player groups or whatnot, that like you can express yourself through that. I go through that with records a lot with DJing. It's like a lot of those records I've heard once or twice, and it's just like, well, in 3 years, it's going to be the perfect moment for this sound.
Yeah, but you only need 50 to 100 albums?
Probably, although I have way more than that.
Yeah.
Because like, it's the next big thing. It's the next great sound that nobody's heard before.
But I'm sure like you're more selective now than you were 5 years ago.
Oh, I'm so much more so. It's like 2 or 3 a year.
As it grows, you get tighter and tighter. So I think that's 2 things that are going to happen, right? Which is like eventually, and hopefully not for a long time, the growth of the industry as a whole will slow. So the number of new people get into this. And then also people will naturally like, you have a curve of growth of that, but then you have a natural curve on like building your board game collection. And so if a lot of players also arrive at that we only buy 2 or 3 a year now phase at the same time, it also gets a lot tighter. So if those both mix.
You could also see it go to 20, 30, 80 million people. I mean, it could also just not slow down, which is something we've been looking at
It's
too.
only a problem when the growth stops, just like the economy. Like,
well, there's billions of people out
there.
Yeah, we got this.
100%.
Jill Soldano asked, do you guys have a game that you love that the other one hates? Is there anything that I love that you hate? Swords and Strongholds? You don't hate it, right?
I don't hate it.
What's the game that I like the most compared to you liking it the least?
On a scale of 1 to 10,
vice versa.
The way I feel about Star Wars LCG compared to how you feel about it.
Yeah, devastatingly do not like that game.
Definitely different.
Yeah.
That's one on that direction. I don't know the other way around. I'm trying to think about a game I really don't like that you like. But you'd only just tend to like very like streamlined
Do you like Arena Rex?
Yeah.
Do you like...
You like it more than me.
Yes, that's true. And you like Swords and Strongholds. Quantum? You like Quantum?
I like Quantum.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go.
Maybe I'm just more, what's a word for me having less parameters on what I enjoy?
You're just more inclusive in your tastes?
I just like more.
You just take it as it, yeah. SoCal Trojan.
Any Venom?
Oh, someone wants to see Venom?
Put him between Spider-Man and Doc Ock.
All right.
Right there, bro.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna do this. Is that helpful?
It's the beginning. SoCal Trojan, can you please comment on the state of Marvel Champions having a hold on the Captain America and Green Goblin set? I've been trying to get my pre-orders since December. I only have Miss Marvel so far. I will say this. We've been talking about this a little bit off and on. This is the reality of a lot of factors in this industry in particular. And it stems from things that we've talked about on the cast a lot. But the long story short on this is there's just way more demand than there is supply. And every time you get a sense of what demand is, you're already about 6 months behind. So at this point, it's kind of like, yes, Marvel Champions was a much bigger success than we expected. If you had consulted with Zachary first, we would have told you it would have been a very successful game. It's a Marvel and cooperative, but that's fine. So there was a certain number printed, and most of the time on the early releases, like as a game's like first 6 months particularly, a lot of that core set and those expansions are all printed before the first product comes out. So by the time like on your Captain Marvel sellout or your Captain America sellout, like a month or 2 after the core set, you can go print more right now, but you're still 6 months away or 4 months away, depending on where your factory is, and if it's in China, you got to get on the boat and get over. So there's just a lag time between catching up with demand and then not wanting to overprint and over-anticipate demand that is going to wane because products aren't available. So then you lose Champions players during the drought, and then maybe you bring in a big reprint, but now there's less players, so now you're losing money on that reprint. So there's a lot of, nobody wants to take risk. I get that. I mean, that's kind of
Or
the
people
nature
are
of
willing to
human
only
life.
take a certain amount of risk.
Yeah, and so you're trying to sell out. Like, selling out is good. Not selling out, it can be fatal to a publisher. So you're trying to find that sweet spot. But I feel like as long as you're moving all the products you print, you feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
So, like, there's
mean,
a dangerous zone there right in the middle.
I think we saw this exact thing several times over the past 5 or 6 years, one of which was with Destiny, right? Which is, game comes out, it's obviously underprinted, and it takes several months for them to get the reprint in. By the time they get the reprint, the people that were interested that didn't get it aren't as interested anymore. Time has passed, right? The sizzle has left. But the thing about Destiny, and any competitive game for that matter, is the fact that for Destiny to be as interesting as it can be to me as someone that owns it, I need a bunch of opponents. So if there's only 8 people in my local scene that have the product at all, it's the same 7 or 8 people. The community can't grow. It's this, I play a certain kind of deck, and Steven gets tired of seeing my deck every week. And so that is a challenge for competitive games, particularly. With a cooperative game, the interesting thing is that, which we saw the same thing with Arkham. Like the first 6 to 9 months, it was hard. The downside of Arkham was that those packs are released in cycles that tell a story. So if you miss pack 2, pack 3 through 6 are just dead for you, right? So you might get pack 3 because you don't know when it's going to come back, so you go ahead and get it, but you can't really do anything with it until you also get pack 2. Champions, one of the strengths of the way they've decided to package this game, which I think is very important, they print it, it sells out, that means there's a lot of people interested in this thing, they're reprinting it probably immediately, but just because you don't have Captain America, as is the case, right, you still have the core set, which means you can actually play the game. You also, with this game, tend to play with the same 2 to 4 people because it's cooperative. So it's not that there's a stale meta happening, right? It just means that your ability to explore decks is less. So you're not going to a weekly meetup and get bored and then decide to move on to the next thing. So in this case, right, I think it's the well-positioned to deal with that upfront lack of supply as compared to a competitive game or a previous game like Arkham. Because I assume from every signal we're getting, we're expecting a reprint of all that initial stuff to come in the next month or 2. So it is kind of annoying.
Core sets too, right? Aren't they out right now?
Core sets are. Yeah. So same with the core set though. So if they are out and you're having trouble getting them, reprints are highly likely to be on the way. And because of the whole structure of the industry, it's really hard to predict that up front. And the amount of risk that a publisher wants to take is finite, and for a good reason. It has to be. Yeah. There's only so much physical space. There's only so much money to be able to do this kind of a thing. So I assume they're printing those as fast as they can. And also what will happen is as we get down the road, right? So if the core game comes out and it sells out, and the first expansion comes out and it sells out, they can hit reprint then on everything already out and everything going to come out in that next period, and anything they're hitting print on after that. They have a much better indication of how many to make. So with Arkham as an example, it was like they didn't have enough for the first 6 to 9 months, but by every pack, right, it was like less people not being able to get it, less people not being able to get it, less people not being able to get it. I think the same would be true of Champions. So by the time we get to the middle of this year, I expect supply across the board to not really be a problem. Because most publishers, I think, want to print enough to fulfill demand and also still have it on the shelf where someone new getting in can actually buy it. But finding that point, right, is very tough, especially when you're talking in thousands and thousands of units of these games. Because you miss 5,000 on that core set, that's a big box. Yeah. And like that's a big box sitting in the warehouse that you're paying to, have insurance on and store, and just sitting in cash that's tied up for a long time. So it's a real challenge, but on our end as well, we do everything we can to ride that down, and we continue to do so. It's not perfect. I think there's some fundamental things about the industry that will have to change to make it so, but
just a lot of conversations.
We're working on it. Yeah, so we're trying as hard as we can to write it down.
Jared Cooper asks, what game, current or past, would you like to see re-released with a different IP?
I just think about the best game systems I've ever played. So my mind immediately goes to Netrunner. I don't know that the IP needs to change. I just want Netrunner back. Star Wars Destiny to me is a shame that system is not going to be in use. I love the dice and the action system and the way that works.
I would say Conquest is huge on my list.
Oh, that's a really good system.
I consistently want to see Conquest in a Lord of the Rings context. It makes so much sense to me that actually is painful. Where it's like you have all the things out, you have your different locations that are relevant to Middle Earth, and you go send your people to go fight over them.
Yeah. Start with the Shire on the left and get Mordor on the end.
And maybe you could do some interesting things with the sequencing rather than you have to go like in order. So you could tweak it a little bit. Same with Game of Thrones. I mean, all of the locations in Game of Thrones that are relevant, you could have those as your locations and throw things out there. Also, we played the Star Wars CCG this past weekend, and I remember that it's awesome. Yeah, it's so weird, but it's so good.
It's awesome. The thing about it is cool. We should play it on stream at some point. But is that it? By the looks of it and describing it, I would say Steven would not like this game. Right?
Yeah.
Like, but somehow it puts all the things that don't make sense together in things that you would put on your checklist.
Yeah, it's weird.
To be alluring.
It's like a puzzle that's just like, it's like, wow, this shouldn't work, but all the pieces fit.
But somehow it ends up in a game.
It was some kind of fever dream that made it.
I mean, I think as a Star Wars fan and fan of Star Wars games, like the dream to me would be getting the Star Wars CCG treatment like Netrunner had, which is it was originally made in the 90s, so it has classic 90s tabletop problems.
A lot of text.
A lot of text that doesn't make any. It's like they basically wrote the paragraph asking, "Can we make it not make sense? Like, can it be? Why is this comma here?" Anyways, but it has. If you could streamline it like Netrunner LCG did for the original Netrunner CCG,
and it would be incredible.
And bring it back, like that would be. If I were just picking, that's what I would bring back.
I'd put that in any IP too.
Yeah.
I mean, that would work because it's a location. You play out your locations as well, so you could do that with Thrones or Lord of the Rings or any of the big IPs or a custom one. You did in Keyforge if you wanted to. Ducati, what are the games you guys play? Twilight Imperium, Wingspan, Brass, mainly tabletop. Played a bunch of Wingspan. Haven't made it to Twilight Imperium yet or Brass. Some of the classics I've still missed.
Twilight Imperium stays on my list, but it's just such a commitment.
I'm in love with Quantum. I have been. I think that's the greatest game you can do with a bunch of D6s and a map. I'm trying to think of Parks. We played Parks recently.
You guys play Arkham a lot, right?
I play a lot of Arkham, yeah. A lot of Arkham horror.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, previously it was Destiny, and then I took a break from that to play Keyforge. I've been playing Keyforge quite a bit. We did play some Arena Rex. Have you been playing it outside that?
No. Got to put those models together.
Yeah.
That's why these games just don't work for me.
And then I've been playing a little bit of this. A lot of Champions, actually, is the thing I've been playing the most. And I've been revisiting, I think Episode 9 for Star Wars required me to go back and remember why I love Star Wars. Right?
Yeah.
It was like I don't need to dive into my reaction to Star Wars, but it was just like not the greatest for me. But a big part of my like early love for Star Wars came from the Star Wars CCG and Star Wars TCG. So I've been actually revisiting that in my spare time right now, looking at old cards, playing it with old friends, and I'm trying to get both games where I have like 6 to 10 decks updated. Like the CCG is funny. It's like I built this when I was 12. Like,
yeah, right.
That was this deck.
The theme is out of control, you know. Apparently, we need Bot War in our life from Warlander TV. It's a super independent game. I'd be interested in trying that. I'll write that down. Bot War after that. I'll remember that. Paul Thompson, do you have any thoughts on how the Champions campaign box will work? I think we're going to see basically kind of a self-contained, you'll have some heroes in there that are relevant. Like I think of like Fantastic Four, right? There's a Fantastic Four campaign box. You get the 4 fantastic heroes. And then you have like a couple of different scenarios that include different villains that are linked together in some kind of an interesting way.
Yeah, I mean the main thing for me is things that happen to the villain that carry over from scenario to scenario, things that happen to the heroes. Same thing, where it's like something changes about your decisions in scenario 1 affect everything in scenario 2 and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Ranzarok says we should try out Osprey's game Ragnarok. Strange username for such a suggestion. Ranzarok suggesting Ragnarok? Huh. Sounds good, but I'm hoping that more board game YouTubes will do more battle reports for the game. It's good. Christopher Zinga, how do you find time to play so many different games when the time needed to master a game takes so much time? I love all the games I play, Legion, Crisis Protocol, X-Wing, but I'm not very good at any of them because I'm dividing my time. That's correct. I mean, a lot of the time, you're seeing us every week, like, getting our game time in. You get a little bit more in.
I usually hang out in the store one night a week, but like you get that with Arkham. Like I think you play Arkham as much as I'm playing, and you were probably really good at Arkham at this point.
Yes. I can say unequivocally, I am incredibly good at Arkham.
I think
don't talk to Philip or Robert about that.
I dealt with this early on, which is like I usually just pick a game, and that's the game that I play once a week, and I am trying to develop my skill at that game. And then anything beyond that is pure casual. So a lot of games fit into that category for me.
And you can flip a switch on and off too. Mm-hmm. Like you can be like, okay, now I'm going to get real serious about Crisis Protocol, and X-Wing is going to just be like chill.
I did that. I was on X-Wing, and then Destiny came out, so I was on Destiny. And then recently, like back in October after Worlds, I was like, I'm going to switch to Keyforge for a while. But through that point, Keyforge to me was one of those casual I play it when I play it occasionally, usually when a new set comes out. But now I've been playing every week, so I feel at least proficient at it. But it's tough.
It is tough, and that's kind of what we're dealing with so many good games out there. Thomas Ryan, guys, come on, get a real mat. We will. I believe the first Crisis Protocol mat, we've charged subs for it. It's on the way. So I think we'll get a copy of it. Maybe by the next time we play Crisis Protocol, we'll have a real mat.
Assumedly. The first mat for the game is actually coming out, so that's helpful.
A real mat. Julian Garcia, I loved your Arena Rec stream. Any games you still enjoy that are not hyped anymore that might grace the stream table again? We've been talking about that. We want to put a lot of weird stuff on the table.
High on the list for me is Netrunner, Star Wars TCG, Star Wars CCG.
We got to play some TCG. That is too fun.
Yeah.
Spoils?
I have the decks for that.
You want to play some
I
Spoils?
would like to play some Spoils.
I'd like to see that system. I mean, it's basically like Magic version 2.
2.0, yeah.
But I'd like to see that on anything, any kind of game. There was a rumor going on they were trying to bring it back again.
The
Which
Spoils?
is like, yeah, that's, I'm sorry, that's...
What is dead may never die.
Yeah, it's not the gray joys of tabletop games. Maybe it is. Gabriel asks on YouTube, I've seen a lot of Marvel Champions card game. Which hero combo do you prefer?
Combo with aspect?
What kind of aspect? What aspect do you like? Yeah, what's your pair right now? What's your number one pair?
My favorite hero to play, don't listen, Captain America, is Spider-Man. He's my favorite hero to play.
Really?
He's just fun. I don't know why, but he just
Wow.
is fun. I think Cap's the best hero that I play.
Yeah.
But I enjoy playing Spider-Man the most. And Spider-Man to me works really, really well with protection and leadership, which are the two that I enjoy playing the most. I feel like leadership is the best aspect, so I stray away from like playing it.
Yeah. It's strong. Allies are good.
But like Spider-Man or Cap leadership is fun.
And I'm on Black Panther or She-Hulk ultimately, and just the weirdest thing you could do with them, basically. She-Hulk Justice is fun. I like that a lot. I like playing lawyer mode with She-Hulk. Black Panther leadership's crazy good. If I want to actually do well, it's that deck. Ryan Roper agrees FFG is classic for doing this. They did the same thing for Destiny, which of course is correct. Virgil Cummings, try 8 years. I just watched all of your Netrunner videos and fell in love with the game.
Wow.
So much so I found a core set at a local game store collecting dust and had to have it. That's amazing. My gosh, that game is special. It is truly special.
It's a game totally worth owning. And I do
Check
that.
out Nisei too. They're actually doing things if you want to take it further too.
I feel like people are like essentially when a community takes over making a game, I think a lot of people go away because of the legitimacy problem that exists. But then they have been doing it long enough that I think people that went away are like, well, okay, like if you're really gonna do this,
okay, maybe I'll jump. I'm kind of on the edge of
yeah.
that pond right now,
Yeah.
thinking about jumping in. Diogo on YouTube, when are you guys streaming Champions again? I don't know, maybe next week? It depends on Wrecking Crew probably. The next time we can play Wrecking Crew, we should.
So Wrecking Crew is supposed to come out a week from Friday. So it would be 2 weeks from today is when we could show that.
Probably that. Maybe next week we'll do something weird. I'm in the mood to do something weird. Like not real weird, but just a weird game. Let's see. Barnes & Noble could have the core set and expansions for Champions. That's true. There is some weird mass market stuff that kind of got in there for a while. I think a lot of those copies went into mass market. Virgil Cummings, super excited though. I'm going to miss Steven's commentating. It gave me life. That's hilarious, Virgil. Thank you. I'm glad to provide that.
You really did a great job. A lot of people comment on your commentating
Thank
on
you.
Netrunner.
It's such a, the thing is like, you can't make every game exciting. Netrunner is a game that is exciting to watch.
Yeah.
And that is extremely rare. Like Crisis Protocol is fine. It's a little slow. If you had a good commentator, maybe you could bring it out, and if you cut all the thinking time, like we did with X-Wing.
Like X-Wing, when we cut out the thinking time, was great to watch.
Yeah.
X-Wing at a tournament is great to watch.
Yeah.
Like when you're hanging out with friends and like you can just watch the top game happening. It's a very good, because this is visual. It's very visual.
But like even Magic is boring to watch.
So boring.
Like it's not good. It's not a good spectator game. So there's a special chemistry that has to happen for all these things. Like to have a game like Netrunner and to be so in love with a game like Netrunner, I think allows you to commentate on it very well because there's something worth saying at all times of Netrunner.
Well, and every time there's a run, there's
It's
tension.
exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy exciting. Misa, I'm very frustrated with Fantasy Flight over Armada. It's an incredible game, maybe the best war game ever, but supply is ridiculous. You don't get that with Games Workshop. Armada's so weird. You remember, like, it's just not taken care of or cared about? Is it because they don't have ships to make?
That's probably part of it. There's only so many like capital style ships that work in that game. It had like a year and a half without releases, and it finally got the Executor, the giant
Yeah,
thing.
and everybody's buying it to put on the shelf.
And the thing about Armada too is it's a competitive game that doesn't feel like a tournament game to me.
Yes.
Like it takes a while, so you don't just go, jam out 4 rounds in a row with a cut to 8.
Yeah.
Like that would take 6 days. So because of that, right, it's also not the kind of game that I think needs a ton of releases to like keep people buying it, Like if X-Wing only released something once every 18 months, the first time that happened, it would be gone.
Yeah.
Like people would be out of here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But Armada
weird.
has a way of doing that. It's almost more like a board game than it is like a...
I'm glad to hear that from you, Miso, though, because I never really understood if it was any good or not. I just could never get into it. It seemed like there was a lot of top-level decision-making, and I was like, I don't know if I'm doing it right, and then I left because I was scared. The Battlestar Galactica board game is a must for a reprint one day. Nothing matches that game. I've heard that over and over, that it's incredible.
It's an incredible game.
Carl Duty says, what's the best game you're playing right now that no one's talking about? Robert recently got Megiddo. Have you played Megiddo?
I haven't
That game
played
is
it.
hilarious.
Have you played it?
It's an old
Have you busted
school
out?
board game, Egyptian theme, but really it's just marbles on a table. And you got to get 5 in a row, and it can either be, or 6 in a row, I think. But it's either around the circle, or in a straight line, or in a spiral. And the spiral will wreck you. Nobody sees the spiral coming. And then you can capture things. It's really fun. It's one of
That's
those
awesome.
old abstracts. And then also, I think Swords and Strongholds maintains my #1 slot. I wish everybody in the world was playing that game. You probably can't, because I don't even know where to buy it at this point. But
Yeah, we don't have it.
that's my list. You got anything that people should be, that no one knows?
Not that I don't talk about every week on the podcast.
Yeah, right. Candace says, love Parks. You guys played that one recently.
Yeah, I played
know?
Parks too. That was a fun game.
Wild Wookie, have you guys played Mompoc? We haven't played the new one for philosophical as well as other reasons, but the original was incredible.
Yep. Love
So I
the
imagine
old
it's still pretty
1.0
good.
Monpot.
Will Bright said, played Twilight Imperium this weekend. Such a good game, but a huge commitment and takes a committed group. Yeah, that's completely correct. Jonathan, you're doing the Lord's work out there. Jonathan H., everyone watching, make sure to like this video. Smash that like button, fellas.
Smash that like.
Get it. Do you guys remember the MLB Showdown trading card game?
I do remember that. I never bought it, but it was around
Sounds
back
like a
when I was a
90s game.
kid in the 90s playing Pokemon, I think. You just see it in the store. And a lot of times back then you bought Pokemon cards from the baseball card store.
Yeah.
And so that was a normal thing.
Yeah, when those
And
things
what was the
existed.
name of that
I'll be
company?
telling my kids maybe
You
about
remember the like
hey,
memorabilia
buy
/ card game
cardboard.
/ sports store that
Slash
used to be
Pogs?
in malls? You know what I'm
Yes,
talking about?
I do, yeah.
It's a guy's name. It's like Joe's or like...
Yeah, there was that one, and then there was the Sun whatever, and you could get anime and Pokemon cards and
It
Mage
wasn't
Knight boosters.
Sun. It was...
It wasn't Pac. I think Pac Sun. I think Sunoco Entertainment. It was something weird, man.
Fye?
That was one as well. Zach and I would go on band trips and buy these things
Yeah.
at the mall.
So this is a fun little story.
We're totally cool dudes.
So like there was one time when band and chorus went on a trip together. My brother John was in chorus.
You
and
couldn't write a script with this.
We each got I think it was like $100 from my dad, and it's like, hey,
Wow.
you,
That's like a pile of gold at that age.
So John and I cleverly were like, hey, if we don't eat and instead pool our money, we could buy video games and whatever we wanted. So we did, and we got back, and we got in trouble because it was
Right.
like, he's
I
like,
thought
where'd you
your
get this
dad
new
wanted
game?
to teach you capitalism.
I mean, I don't know if that's true. Anyways, yeah, we
So
used to
how'd it
go
go?
we used to go into like EV games and stuff, right? Remember buying
I remember
Mage Knight?
EV games. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Remember
like
EV
there was
games.
one. I don't remember who it was. It had to have been Jared. I think it was
Probably.
Jared. So he goes in, he comes back, he's like, "Look at these models I just got for this game. It's Mage Knight. It's a dragon. This is cool." And then we all go in and we clear out EV games, so they're like
Yeah.
18 boxes, but we have just enough to like kind of play. And then every time we go on a band trip, we get a couple more.
Yeah,
and
dude.
just do our
That
thing.
game was awesome. Playing Mage Knight like on those trips, great memories.
Yep.
Favorite Arkham class for me is, I've been playing Guardian a lot. It's still Survivor. I'm scrappy. Zach doesn't know. He
Don't
doesn't
have
play
an
enough.
answer. Yep.
Ryan Roper, are any of us going to Keyforge Worlds? Is that the one where I can win the money?
No.
Oh, well then, no.
How's
Are you going?
Rates? It's possible. I don't know. You have to. So they're doing. I don't know how it works, but they're doing a cool thing where it's like, if you qualify at a Prime Championship, which is the old regionals, you got to bring a team of 3 people. And the second Tulsa just qualified this past weekend. So there's 2 people from Tulsa that have won a spot, and they get to
So
bring
they can
2
bring
teammates.
6 combined.
Yes, but they originally probably would have been on a team together. So now they have to part ways and bring team members. Whether or not I'm involved in that, I don't know.
I could put myself in the pool and fool people into thinking that because of my career, I'm good at Keyforge.
Well, you just outed yourself, so I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, I ain't good.
I don't know. It depends on
Not
what
yet.
it is, too. I'm going to the
Not
Destiny
yet.
Worlds the first weekend in May. So if it's anywhere near that, I probably won't
Didn't
go.
you hear that game was dead? Why are you
Yeah,
going?
it's so dead that it sold out at Worlds in less than an hour. I think it's 500 plus people, under 60 minutes, gone.
So Kyle Trojan asking, do you expect to reopen your subscription to Marvel Champions for the release of Wrecking Crew? No, we do not. We've
that one
got
does
everything
pass.
capped at numbers that we're, working. We're pretty confident we can get the numbers that we have, obviously. But you never know. So no, we're playing it pretty conservative, and we'll see what happens. And then we'll reopen it once we are very certain that supply is stable and we'll be on the receiving end of the products that we have for subscriptions. Ryan Roper says play spoils. Wild Wookie would also love to see us play more Netrunner, so go for that.
A lot of people I posted on a tweet on Twitter, of course. I tweeted.
Revolutionary.
Yeah, I tweeted about when we were playing Netrunner. I posted a picture, and people were like going crazy about it.
Yeah. So Kyle Trojan, Thor and Black Widow release. I bet we would open up hero packs by Black Widow, if I were guessing. You think it'll be stable by then?
Yes.
Maybe Thor? You think people could get in the sub before Thor? Probably not.
Maybe.
Probably
But
not.
that's suspect.
Yeah, every day is a journey.
Yeah, basically as time goes on, we get more confident in what's happening. I'll say that much.
Yeah. No, my wife just commented. I like this idea. I don't know what idea that was, but...
I think it's just us hanging out chatting tabletop.
Oh.
Candace also commented. We got two staff wives
That's
commenting.
amazing. Yeah, and
Now I
yet
know
when we
who's
go
watching
home, they
these
don't say a
videos.
word to us. Isn't that strange? ACN 1580 says, new Netrunner stuff doesn't really fit into the TC business model. That is actually a thing for us. I mean, we make a living by selling products primarily. So if there's no products to sell, I guess there's a lot less.
It does present a challenge.
I mean, every stream that we do is in the dollars of time and money to make. So
yeah, because everyone's getting paid to be here.
unless we sell a
Camera
bunch
crew
of
and stuff.
data tokens. Would you guys do a short RPG series sometime? Not necessarily D&D, maybe Shadowrun or Star Wars RPG, but RPGing is so big now it would be good to see you involved. I would play Torchbearer in a heartbeat on camera, and everybody needs to see it played on camera, and I would love to take you through a game of Torchbearer on camera. And Bryce is a known role player behind the camera. Camera.
So it's possible. Will it happen? Who knows?
Okay,
I'm
Dead
glad
of
you're
Win-
doing this, 'cause it
Christopher
might-
Zinga says, I've played Date of Winter once a week for 3 years, but I'm dying for new content. Have you heard any news on more from Plaid Hat? Nothing. I've heard nothing. But Dead of Winter I consistently hear is awesome, so we should probably play that at some point.
Dead of
Keep
Winter?
ourselves fresh, yeah.
I played it a long time ago. Someone brought it in the store.
Gabriel, no problem. Happy to answer your question. Wizard that climbs the library. Long-time commenter. Good to see you on here. Would love to see TC roleplay. That's cool. It gets emotional for me. Did somebody say something?
Candace. Oh my goodness, you'll get to it. Just
Chad
keep
Stilson
reading.
says, I just picked up Ms. Marvel last night from Barnes & Noble. Wild Wookie agrees, Magic's boring to watch. Favorite lineup for Crisis Protocol? I don't know enough, but I know that Wakanda is where it's at for me right now. That's
I feel
the
like
right.
you're a Wakanda cat.
I'm an aggro player, even though I don't feel... Why is that? Have we talked about that? I like to just, go.
I don't think...
So aggro is usually associated with just being simple.
Yes, I do like simplicity and minimalism.
That's like-
Yeah.
In miniature
You're
games,
saying
you
I'm an
lean toward-
idiot?
I'm just saying that's the difference.
I feel like in miniatures
Walk
games,
up
you
and
like
attack.
aggro because it is streamlined. But at the same time, like,
I like to set the rules. I like to set the board to my, I like to be the person who's saying, I'm in charge here, and if you can't figure out how to beat me, then I'm going to win.
so I think here's a good difference. You like to be the thing the opponent has to respond to, right?
Yes, correct.
I like to control what my opponent's doing.
Yes,
It's a
that is
very
true.
different
That's why
perspective.
it's so much fun when we play things together.
Uh-huh.
Do you guys play any games with your wives? Asked Candace. I mean, the potential
I was
the
looking at the
potential
camera
for,
waiting
the
for you to
potential
say
for
something.
an answer here is
Yeah,
just
it could
incredible.
get-
The number of answers you could give.
What I will say is that, yes, sometimes, typically not the, expandable style. Like, I'm not playing, Destiny at all. We are probably going to check out Champions at some point. She's likes Heroes and, interested in playing.
Shannon and I actually like a lot of the older school games that our parents played. like pitch, for instance. Although I don't think we've ever played pitch together, but that idea,
We should
because
play Pitch.
we do play a lot of sequence actually.
Sequence
we
is
play
a
with
fun
her.
game.
We play with her folks a lot. It's
Sequence
super
is like
fun.
the homemade version of Splendor to me.
We play sequence and dominoes and all of the classics.
Serena's family loves dominoes.
Dude, dominoes is where it's at.
That was when I met her grandma for the first time. I was like, let's throw down some dominoes.
That's a good way to get into the
I got schooled.
That's a good way for people to really enjoy.
Yeah. It's like, you do this for a
this guy
living,
plays
eh?
dominoes? Okay. Damien, thanks for all you do for the hobby. Appreciate that, Damien. Kid Zaki says, I haven't heard anything about Netrunner till now. Well, get ready.
Is he the one that was like, I need to go watch these videos now?
Jesse, I missed whatever you guys have done to showcase the tokens for Wrecking Crew. Mind giving a quick overview of what they're like? Sure, I've got them right here.
We haven't talked about them publicly, but
Yeah, I did the other day on a live stream.
I was there.
Yeah, I think you were there, man. Where did those go? I think they're in that plastic
gone.
tub. Can you grab those? Covert missions, will that get a live stream come release? I think so. We should play
I'm
the end
gonna
of
force the
Destiny.
issue.
Yeah, we should do that. Sounds amazing. Pogs from Dandy Dan's. That's right. Candace knows what's up.
Oh my goodness, Candace, did you play
Yeah.
Pogs from old Dandy
Everybody
Dan's?
played
Was my dad's
Pogs.
convenience
That was
store.
the pecking order at school, man.
He was the king of Pogs. I forgot about that. That's where you got him.
Leonard said maybe they'll reskin Netrunner when Cyberpunk 2077 comes out, but apparently that's not the case. We were tracking that for a while, and they were like, no.
Well, that's the Simon's doing the board game or card game, but it's not Netrunner.
It's not at all that.
It's set up for it.
Wild Wookie, if I walk into your store with my Netrunner deck, can we play? I've got a Wizard deck build, and I think I've got a Corp deck build somewhere. But you'd have to let us know. I mean, you'd have to. What you should do is go into Covenant Tulsa Players. If you really want to do this, say, I want to play Netrunner at the
That's
store.
a Facebook group.
Yeah, it's a
called
Facebook
Covenant
group.
Tulsa Players.
For now, at least. And then you go in there and you're like, I want to play Netrunner. And then I guarantee you at least one person will want to do that with you. Let's see. How far behind am I? I'm about 4 minutes behind.
You're a while, and we're running out of time.
Okay, hold on.
But it's everyone watching and asking questions, thank you. This is easily the
This is cool.
most consistent questions we've had on the... I wanted to call this Talking Tabletop Episode 1, but Steven didn't want me to, as though we were committing to doing more. But sometimes there's only one episode.
With Star Trek Picard breathing life into the franchise, what kind of Trek game would you like to see hit the market? Do you want to tell him, Zach, or do you want me to tell him?
What kind of Trek game?
Do you want me to tell him that neither of us really watch Star Trek?
I have seen 30 to 40 episodes of The Next Generation.
Nice.
Matt and I were doing a top 50. We never made it. But
Devastating.
But
So
we
close,
started.
too.
The thing about Star Trek that I didn't appreciate until I started watching that was that it's very episodic in that,
Yes.
like,
You don't have to see them all to
you
know them.
definitely don't have to see them all.
Yeah.
But I think, to me, Star Trek is perfect for a cooperative game of some sort, in that the whole show is literally a crew of people with different roles doing different things, facing various problems.
It's like running a business in space, but in space.
Any organization, yeah. But in the same way that Champions, it's like we're all fighting a villain. It's like something happens and the scenario is what you have to face. And you solve it as a team based on the people you have and the knowledge you have and what's going on. So if our picking cooperative card game,
there you go. Probably.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like an Outer Rim.
just give me
Outer
data.
Rim would be cool. That one, what's
Yeah,
that
that would
one
be
where
cool.
you gotta, it's really intense and you gotta announce all your stuff. Captain Sonar. Yeah.
Yep.
Could do that one.
I mean, Captain Sonar basically is Star Trek, and yeah.
Bryce's wife Candace says, I play a drinking game for the
that's
streams.
why I
Every
laughed at
time
earlier.
Zach fixes his hair, I take a shot.
Now that I know that,
Water, right? And Bryce, you got something going on when you get home. Beware. It's going to be insane. We want Netrunner back. Yes, I agree. That's what everybody keeps saying, and I
It's the
wish it
dream.
were to come back. Jared Cooper says, I keep saying I'm going to buy you guys a beer at a con sometime, but you're always busy. I guess I'll have to send pizza to the store instead. We would absolutely eat that pizza.
you would also get endless shout outs on stream and stuff. What if you really want to make that dream a reality? The best chance is going to be something like Adepticon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We're usually hanging out at night playing games somewhere.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to scroll through real quick. John the Bard, any unmatched content coming? I love that game. Why have we not played more of that game?
We don't own it. It's hard to get.
Yeah, there you go. Ian, you should play Flesh and Blood TCG. I've got it. It's right over here. It's in the pile. We need to try it and Sky Tier both. We might do that on stream. Maybe next week.
That
We
could
said
be
we were
the-
going to
that
do
could
the
be
weird
the
thing
thing,
next
yeah.
week. Okay, so we're here. We did it. And the final thing, well, two questions. Chad Stillson, with all the shakeups going on at FFG, I probably should read the rest of this before I say it out loud. Do you think they will have any new and exciting games announced or just more expansions of their current line? I don't think it's going to change that much, guys. Aside from cutting some things that kind of were on the chopping block if you're paying attention anyway. Like, Destiny kept getting delay after delay after delay. Everybody was bummed about it. They never really got the momentum on that game. They didn't announce any grand, big, organized play strategy. Like, it just seemed like the game was incredible, and it was always being held back by random, I don't want to say stupid, but stupid things that were just not in line with what needed to happen for that game. So is it a surprise to me that eventually it's like somebody at the top with a red marker is like, this doesn't make any sense? It's not a surprise. The competitive LCGs have always had issues. We've talked about this on the cast for years now. After year 1.5 to 2, new products don't add any new excitement to the meta. Old players or pre-existing players not engaged. New players can't get into the game because the product catalog is too big. So that's not a surprise either. I think there's some trimming going down. The question we asked on the cast is, will that mean the soul of the organization goes away? And with all these layoffs, and with Christian gone and Andrew gone, it's like, that's a better question to me. I think we'll still see more games. I just don't know how good they'll be. I mean, the design team's still there as far as we know.
That's the question, right?
But maybe it'll just be cooperative LCGs.
I mean, we talked about it a lot. What I would like to see is less games with better support across the board. That's like the dream state for me. So during the once Netrunner and X-Wing hit in 2012, I think a mode was entered at FFG where it was like, let's have a bunch of these, right? This is so successful for us. If every card game they put out was as successful for them as Netrunner, they would have been 10 times more successful than they are now. But I think what they learned very quickly is they had the Thrones LCG, just for competitive. Then they put Netrunner out. Netrunner went crazy. And then they put Conquest out. And then they put Thrones Reboot out. And then they put Destiny out. And then they put L5R out. And then they put Keyforge out. Year after year after year after year, right? That's literally every year.
New release.
And two things happened. One, the weight of developing that many games, supporting that many games is a lot. And secondarily, if you have an audience as a publisher, and each of these games, right? It's like maybe you are adding new players, but how many players that did play the Thrones LCG went to Conquest? And how many people that played Conquest went to the Thrones reboot? And how many people that played Thrones went to Destiny?
Went to L5R. Yeah.
And so the more you divide this, right? I mean, locally we have the same thing, which is like if we have too many games, then it's very hard for people to choose what game to play. And like we have a bunch of 4 to 10 person communities instead of a bunch of 20 to 30 person communities. And 20 to 30 person communities are way more sustainable, and like 4 people can be missing 1 week, and like a new player shows up, and there's still plenty of people to play against. So it's just it's a fine balance, and I think the industry is growing, but like it seems like they're making some cuts on games that were having either troubles or slowing down anyway. But what that means for future releases is we're only going to be able to tell in time.
I don't know. We shall see. Well, that's it, Zach. Let's go home.
All right. Hey,
thank you guys
so much.
It's been awesome chatting with everybody. I agree. Wizard climbs the library. With this stream, it's like the podcast is back on YouTube, which is kind of cool. It's like a podcast where we're just talking to you directly.
But there's
Technology
a good reason for
makes
us to
it
be
happen.
live and visual, is that we actually are interacting with the audience versus a podcast where you're just watching us record a podcast.
That's right. You get to see our beautiful faces. Well, thanks, guys. We'll see you later. We'll see you next Monday, probably, or on podcast on Friday.
Definitely see you next Monday, but what we're doing that Monday is a question.
Until then, keep playing.